we can begin our meeting at 6:11 p.m. First item on our agenda is the agenda. Is there a motion to amend and adopt our agenda? Councilor Barlow.
Thank you, Acting President Shannon. I would like to amend the consent agenda to remove 5.2, the accountability list, and actually place it on our deliberative agenda as item.
I think it's 5.20 you want
5.2 is the first thing. It's an accountability list that
okay, sorry.
That Councilor Litwin is asked to put on our deliberative, and I'd like to move it to the end of our deliberative agenda, which is item, sorry, 5, it will be 6.6, and also amend the consent agenda to remove item 5.20. And with that, I would move the amended agenda with those amendments to the consent agenda.
So item 5.2 becomes item 6.6?
Yes.
Okay, is there a second to that?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Litwin. Any discussion? All those in favor of the agenda as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That is unanimous. Thank you. And the next item on our agenda is the mayor with general city affairs.
Thank you, Acting President Shannon. So tonight I spoke with Council President Travers this weekend, and I do plan to give an update on the chief hiring process within this update. So I will try to keep it within 10 minutes, but I might go a little over because there's a lot to say on that matter, and I want to do right by the City Council resolution that was passed, I believe, at the end of January, maybe early February on this matter to report back. But I first want to start with appreciation. Last night, the City of Burlington, along with our partners at CVOEO, operated an extreme cold weather shelter again, given the cold weather conditions and precipitation. And I just want to, again, express my appreciation to the staffing who helped prep opening of the Miller Center, operating a shelter overnight, which requires important safe staffing ratios, and then the staff who stay on for the entire next day, cleaning the space to return it back to its regular purposes. We served 65 people last night at the shelter, and this is a shelter that's very intentionally designed and working on criteria that we continually improve upon every time we've had to open the shelter this winter. My administration meets with staff and leadership of the shelter 9 a.m. every morning after we operate the shelter. We debrief how it went. We apply what we need to improve upon and update our city policy for which governs both the criteria but also the procedures we have to operate a safe shelter. I really appreciate that the policy for the city maintains and prioritizes the safety and the confidentiality for the individuals and guests who must use the shelter to have a safe place to be overnight in extremely cold conditions. And these safety and confidentiality matters and the criteria for which we use in our policy is both vetted by and required by the state because the money for which funds the emergency shelter comes from the state of Vermont through our partners at CVOEO. So it's very important that the city follows our policy, otherwise we could be at risk of our state funding to be able to even open and operate this critical life-saving service for the community who is unsheltered. As part of this, as well as with the staffing, because I've been asked questions around the criteria for who staffs the shelter, a number of questions in fact. And the most important thing I want to offer is I really appreciate there's a lot of folks who reach out wanting to help, to support folks who are unsheltered, to be able to operate the shelter itself. But the staffing requires background checks. It requires folks who've been vetted to not only comply with the state, as I mentioned, the criteria they expect from us, but also our own liability coverage to make sure we're operating a place where folks can be supported by professionals who work with folks in this population. So again, a lot of appreciation for operating yet again a very important part of our community safety response. I want to move now to the updates on our hiring process for the next chief of police here in the city of Burlington. As folks will know, last week I had the good fortune of announcing work that we've been working on for a number of weeks here in my administration, and I'm very proud to announce that we have now an interim chief of police. The current chief of police for South Burlington, Sean Burke, has agreed to come back to the Queen City after working here for 21 years. His last rank was Deputy Chief of Operations for Burlington Police Department. And through a lot of conversations and discussions, he agreed to come back to the city to serve in an interim capacity. This has been my #1 priority since receiving news from Chief Murad that he was not seeking reappointment in the upcoming year. And so that to me was the most important piece of the process and the puzzle of figuring out the leadership transition for the city, was to make sure we had continuity of leadership and a skilled person at that, in order to make sure our leadership transition was as smooth as possible. Through the process of finding and speaking with Chief Burke, I spoke to almost a dozen different law enforcement leaders to seek advice, also to recruit a possible interim, because the most important thing that we could really hope for was someone who was familiar with our agency, familiar with the challenges of Burlington, and ideally someone who had experience leading within the police department. And so we are so very fortunate to have Chief Burke be willing to come back to our city. It's an ideal situation for our not only community but police department, and Chief Burke is really uniquely qualified at that to come back to the BPD. In a lot of those conversations I have with the chief, we have a lot of values. Our values are really aligned around the approach to community safety. His agreement with me that the biggest piece of work that's needed in the next several months for the Burlington Police Department is an internal focus on rebuilding our police department, to look very intentionally at our recruitment strategies, our retention strategies, to understand workplace culture issues, climate, career advancement opportunities or lack thereof within our department, and also prioritizing the goals for which I developed with Chief Murad at the end of last summer, as I did with every department, and shared that with the City Council in late October. But these goals include making sure we have an effective and responsive community safety system in the city of Burlington, for which the police are a critical component of. But within the police department, that includes increasing our headcount for sworn officers with quality applicants, looking at the workload of current officers and professional staff, improving our partnership with our criminal justice partners, especially the state's attorney's office, and looking at our priority response plans, so again, that we have an effective and responsive community safety system. And so I also want to just offer a lot of deep appreciation and gratitude to City Manager Jesse Baker from South Burlington. I understand this has an impact on her police department and our neighbors over in South Burlington, but as we had conversation over the last several weeks, she understands and her city understands that the safety of Burlington is intertwined with the safety of South Burlington, our region, and our state. And so we both see this as a value add to both of our communities to make sure we have good leadership here in the Queen City. If folks are not familiar with Chief Sean Burke, I mentioned earlier, he has 21 years of service to the Burlington Police Department. He retired from us in 2018 at the rank of Deputy Chief of Operations. He currently holds several leadership roles besides being the Chief of South Burlington, including the Vermont Domestic Violence Fatality. He serves on the Vermont Domestic Violence Fatality Review Commission. He serves on the Department of Public Safety on the state level school crisis planning team. He's the first vice president of the Vermont Association of Chiefs of Police, and he also chairs the Vermont Law Enforcement Advisory Board. I think these are all really speak to his not only dedication to law enforcement, but to the state of Vermont. We will be bringing at March 10th to the Board of Finance what our interim staffing proposal that includes bringing Chief Burke on board. He will start March 24th, and he's already in conversation with our BPD and current Chief John Murad around transition and making sure that's as smooth of a process as possible. In that leads into a little bit of the permanent police chief hiring process. We did go through an early vetting process around what do we compensate our chief of police at. This was one of the items in the resolution. And through some analysis from our HR department, our clerk treasurer's department, and looking at what has happened with the salaries of chief of police and the trends in recent years, we are underpaying our chief of police position. And so in anticipation of this transition to Chief Burke, even noting what South Burlington currently pays, that will be all part of the proposal to Board of Finance on March 10th. And it springboard us, and it's like a precursor into the work for the permanent hiring of the chief of police. So that information will be shared within that memo that we're preparing for the March 10th Board of Finance. Chief Burke finally will also be here, and we'll put this in the proposal to the Board of Finance, on a 2-year contract, and that's important for considering how much change is ahead of us for the Burlington Police Department, known change. We have a current vacancy for one of our deputy chief positions. We have anticipating a second vacancy for deputy chief. These are known retirements, just to be clear. Deputy Chief Lebrecq left at the end of last calendar year. Deputy Chief Labarge currently is about to be eligible for retirement. And of course, we'll have a new permanent chief. Hopefully, my plan is by the end of 2025. That's a lot of new leadership, and having interim chief Sean Burke on board for this entire trajectory will be incredibly valuable to the department as we stabilize and make sure that our new leadership has the support they need to lead Burlington forward. To the chief of police hiring process, so we have selected, and I'm announcing here that we have selected the firm IACP, which is a well-vetted organization that does a number of executive searches for police departments and municipalities across the country. They're located out of Alexandria, Virginia. We had a couple of bids for our search process come in, and we selected this particular firm because they have ample experience helping small, medium, and large communities with chief of police searches. They most recently helped the city of Rutland, Vermont in 2015 and the city of Hartford, Vermont in 2022, as well as many New England towns in our region. And this is important because I think in particular, Burlington needs assistance with folks who have experience with our size of a community, and also with the challenges that a community our size are facing. Their most recent searches included Alexandria, Virginia, also the Massachusetts State Police, Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and New Orleans, Louisiana, just to give you a breadth of the size and different communities for which they've supported. The bid is public information. We're happy to share that with city councilors if you have questions. Their network in particular was impressive to me, just in their ability and thoughtfulness around diversity and where they post and where they build their networks for recruitment. They take time to develop a leader profile based on conversations with stakeholders and the community for which they're assisting, to then create and tailor candidates that will fit that profile for that community. I was very clear around wanting to make sure that we're not taking a cookie cutter approach and then just trying to apply put Burlington into that cookie cutter, but to really be able to design what we need in our next chief, and making sure we get the right kind of candidates who can match Burlington. They also took care to address how they engage community and stakeholders in the front end of the hiring process. And even though we originally put this bid out before we knew interim Chief Sean Burke was available and interested in coming to join the city, this timeline that they presented was a fast one. We'll adjust it slightly now that we have Chief Burke coming to us. But we do, again, just to be clear, I will look to hire a permanent chief by the end of 2025 so we can keep moving forward with that incredibly important role for the BPD. And that is my update on the chief hiring process. I want to just mention two other pieces in my update while I have the mic. One is we have started a new method of updating the community more completely on community safety efforts that we are working on for my administration. We held our first press briefing last Thursday that I am looking to make a monthly a monthly effort. And so that is something that people can look to see the full taping of that on Town Meeting TV. We'll also push that out through our normal channels. It's a new effort we're trying to do to make sure we can consolidate efforts that we try to do briefly in city council meetings, mayor meetups, on emails. We're trying this new method to make sure that we're covering more topics and more people, hopefully, who are interested in hearing community safety updates from the city. And we're trying to do this within 3 categories so people know what's happening related to police and fire, public health, and then issues that sort of cross the city and or departments. One example of that would be our hotspot strategy that usually involves 6 or 8 different departments at any particular time. I also would like to update folks on continued response by the city. I spoke to this at the press briefing, but just to make sure folks hear this tonight, of how we continue to respond and how we've experienced changes in Washington, D.C. as the city of Burlington with the new Trump administration. And I want to just start by saying, and I was clear last Thursday, I want to be clear here again, that the city of Burlington stands with all members of our community, remains committed to making sure that this community remains a safe and inclusive community. We are not changing our existing policies, and I proudly stand by our 2016 commitment to immigrants and refugees. We did that through a city council resolution in 2016. And we said that we are standing by these members of our community because they are vital parts of our community. We also stand alongside our trans and non-gender conforming and all LGBTQ+ residents as well. These are very uncertain and scary times for many of these individuals, and the city of Burlington will always be standing alongside these individuals. Our fair and impartial policing policy still stands within the Burlington Police Department. It's also called a FIP policy, and that means that the Burlington Police will not proactively initiate civil immigration enforcement within the city of Burlington. This has been our policy since 2020 and has not changed. And BPD has not assisted any ICE or other federal immigration civil matters since the Trump administration began in January. We are committed, because it's vitally important, as I mentioned, this is a chaotic and nerve-wracking time for folks. We're committed as the city to continue to put out accurate information. We want to minimize fear, for at least our part, that we can help with that, and make sure misinformation is not pushed out through the city of Burlington. We're updating our city building and employment policies. Our library has already taken this step, and we'll be extending that to all city buildings, including City Hall, to be clear around safety for employees and visitors to our buildings. We've held 2 convenings at this point with community partners and stakeholders who are doing other work to support members of our community. And we are facilitating the exchange of information, resources, and defining the needs that these community organizations need in terms of assistance from the city. This ranges from LGBTQ+ organizations to immigrant rights organizations to partners from the state and other entities, including our school districts and youth organizations who serve a lot of families who are immigrant refugee families, but also LGBTQ+ youth as well. I want to be clear that Burlington has already felt the impacts of the Trump administration on the funding side of things. We are not immune to this. Early on already, we have seen 2 federal grants, sizable grants, frozen that impact the Burlington Electric Department and Burlington Workforce Development. We've already underway, we had this conversation briefly at Board of Finance to identify all federal grants that might be in jeopardy to figure out how we start to adapt here locally. We are not alone by this, and we're certainly not alone because a lot of the state grants get funded by federal resources, and this will be a sizable impact on communities across the country, but right here in Burlington. We are not sitting on reserves that would easily backfill some critical grants that we hold. The BED grant was related to climate issues related to our electric efforts for electric vehicles and whatnot. Our BWD grant was related to a very important workforce development opportunity for construction workers to help people upfit their skills in order to go into the construction field. We're also working to protect voter information for our all-resident voting system and working with Georgetown Law School through the U.S. Conference of Mayors to make sure this vital information is also protected for folks who are not citizens but should have every right to be able to participate in our local democracy, and making sure we're working with, again, our national partners. And then finally, I'll mention on terms of our work with the Overdose Prevention Center, we gave an update last week at the meeting, and I'll just remind folks that we're working very closely with our sibling cities such as Providence, Rhode Island, which recently opened an overdose prevention center, to make sure we're understanding the impacts of their work and therefore planning accordingly here to make sure that this critical tool can still proceed up here in Vermont, but making sure that we're learning on what they're experiencing from any federal changes of policy or approach to make sure that we continue to stay the course here in Burlington. And with that, those are the updates. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. And I think I speak for everybody here congratulating you on attracting Chief Burke to Burlington, and great gratitude to Chief Burke for being willing to come. Next, I think we're going to go to public forum because that is at 6:30. And I currently have 3 speakers from Burlington here in Contoys. So the first speaker is Jean Keller. And I'll just remind everybody, thank you, to please address your comments to me. And it is much easier for the council to appreciate what you're saying if we can use a civil tone while saying it. So thank you. Go ahead. Is a microphone on or close enough to you? If you've got a green light there, it's on. And if it's on, just pull it a little closer to you. And when you start speaking, you'll see the green light go on, and you will have 2 minutes. And when the red light comes on, you'll be done.
Thank you. I'm Jean Keller from Ward 1. Madam President, Ward 1 neighbors cannot imagine any of your fellow council members voting in favor of this kind of development in their own neighborhoods. I'm talking about the hospital MOU, especially when the city gets nothing in return. No protection for green space, airspace, for mitigation of traffic impacts, no agreement for payments in lieu of taxes to offset infrastructure costs. Here's what the city is not getting from the hospital MOU. We are not getting height reductions for buildings facing Colchester Avenue neighborhood. Buildings could be 8 to 10 stories high with only a 12-foot setback. We are not getting protection of the existing berm that screens the Colchester Avenue neighborhood. We are not getting protection of the existing buffer zone. The further encroachments are allowed by this MOU. We are not getting a height limit for the proposed parking garages that will loom over East Avenue neighborhood. We are not getting a commitment for pilot payments to offset expected infrastructure impacts. We are not getting a city administration that is free to forcefully challenge the addition of 850 parking spaces. Future mayors and planners will be required to support these parking spaces by the MOU's plain language. There is no reason for the hospital to demand this language except to limit city challenges. There is no reason for the city to support this now. On the other hand, what does the hospital get from this MOU? Everything they've asked for, everything they want. So for what remains of my 2 minutes, Madam President, I ask that you consider this rhetorical but sincere question. How would you and other council members vote if this MOU was from a developer in your neighborhood?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Jacob Alfar, followed by Cynthia Cook.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Members of the City Council, my name is Jacob Alfar, and I'm here to speak about the Burlington Police Department. This is hard to do in 2 minutes. I was hired as a community service officer on December 17th, 2024, sworn in on January 30th, and fired on February 14th. By my count, 88 days as a fly on the wall at the BPD. After my termination, I posted on the Burlington subreddit and Frontport Forum to gauge public interest in my experience. The overwhelming response is why I'm here. This is not retaliation, but rather this is the beginning of a debriefing. The official reasoning for my firing given was HR boilerplate that I failed to demonstrate fitness for the role. But let's put that into context. As my probation ended, BPD leadership likely saw me as a disruption, maybe because I skewed their statistics, challenged poor leadership, and even bypassed a supervisor to consult the city attorney. I asked tough questions, tried to hold people accountable, and refused to accept what I saw as daily incompetence. Despite researching and proposing ideas, I received no mentorship, no engagement, only silence. If I was fired for being too creative, BPD should retract creativity from its core values. But this is standard BPD. Selective enforcement, incompetence, resistance to change, and an over-reliance on discretion to justify ineffectiveness. So what was I truly unfit for? Tolerating a culture that resists scrutiny, rejects outsiders, and demands compliance over integrity to the people. There's no middle ground. You heel to them or you don't belong, especially as a CSO. The City Council sees BPD through data and ride-alongs. I had an 88-day ride-along as a bottom feeder. I'd like to share my experience with you, the public, and BPD itself. I have insights and suggestions. With my background in management and leadership, I saw real problems, and I plan to discuss them in the coming weeks. Today, I posted about BPD leadership on the Burlington subreddit, and hopefully soon to air on Front Porch Forum. I also plan to attend these public comments regularly and will compile my full experience for the city soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Cynthia Cook, followed by Lee Morgan.
Good evening. I'm Cindy Cook from Ward 1. I understand the importance of fostering a good working relationship between the city and the medical center. The MOU is one-sided with significant benefits to the medical center and none to the city. I urge the city to scrap this draft and work to develop an MOU that is mutually beneficial. The MOU as currently drafted commits the city to supporting significant increases in building height and substantially increased parking at the medical center. This is crazy. The city currently has absolutely no information on which to base the support for either of these things. We don't have elevations to depict the huge increase in building height that would affect the aesthetics of Colchester and East Avenue travel corridors and the quality of life in the adjacent neighborhoods. We don't have information on how the 14-plus story buildings would affect both increased shading and increased nighttime lighting. East Avenue and the Jug Handle and Main Street are already overburdened beyond capacity by current medical center traffic. The city does not have any traffic study or any information about the impact of a 50% increase in the parking and the impact on city roads. Current traffic from the medical center results in diminished air quality, excessive greenhouse gas emissions, dangerous conditions for bicycles, and diminished quality of life for residents and those traveling along the corridor. There are currently roughly 2,000 parking spaces at the medical center. The MOU commits the city to supporting close to 1,000 additional spaces. This would dramatically exacerbate the impacts that already exist. It would also require extensive infrastructure improvements and would further erode the character of our neighborhoods. I urge the city to start working with the medical center right away to develop a state-of-the-art traffic demand-side management plan, and I urge the council to refrain from supporting any additional parking until the medical center has conducted a traffic analysis and developed a robust plan for reducing rather than increasing traffic impacts. Thank you.
Our last speaker in Contoys is Lee Morgan.
Hello, good evening, Lee Morgan, Ward 3. I was going to read the conclusion of my resignation letter tonight, but it's clear that it doesn't matter to the majority here, so instead let's talk about something else. The Democratic caucus has brought forward a resolution that vilifies criminal behavior, but only when it's committed by people who are poor and unhoused. At the same time, current members of the Democratic caucus have taken campaign donations from a wealthy convicted criminal who lives in a house. That's the game, isn't it? If you're poor, you're a criminal. If you're rich, well, you, my friend, are a donor. This isn't about public safety. If it were, we'd be talking about housing, mental health care, and survival in extreme cold. Instead, we're getting another right-wing crime panic wrapped in blue ribbon branding. Democrats, you have the majority. You have the votes, and once again, you'll pass a regressive right-wing policy that kills your neighbors while keeping donations flowing. This isn't policy. This isn't even public safety. This is prejudice and hypocrisy wrapped in a blue ribbon. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll go to Burlington residents online. The first speaker is Lisa Lax, and Lisa will be followed by Martha Lang.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, great. So
One
good
second.
evening.
One moment. I'm sorry. We need a timer up. Okay, go ahead, Lisa.
Okay, so good evening and thank you for an opportunity to speak. I want to address the updated MOU in process between the city and the UVMMC regarding additional building growth on the Colchester Avenue campus. I am a 40-year resident of Tebow Parkway, living in a neighborhood that is dominated by the hospital and university campuses. I am deeply concerned, one might also say alarmed, by any agreement to permit further buildings growth on UVMMC campus. Like other neighbors, I'm concerned about increased traffic and the impact of infrastructure. I also want to speak about the increasing building heights on the campus. Taller buildings will greatly impact the character of the neighborhoods on Case, Tebow, Billadu, East Avenue, Fletcher, and Nash Place. Taller buildings will block afternoon light, shading vast areas during the middle of the day for many hours. This can affect people's mood, their ability to garden in their yards, and impacts the quality of life. There would also be additional light pollution at night. My neighbors on the surrounding streets already have to contend with the strain caused by these large institutions. It seems to me that there are other land spaces nearby, such as the UVMMC Fannie Allen campus, where additional growth would have less impact on residential neighborhoods in our community and would not alter the character of the few affordable neighborhoods in the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, we have Martha Lang, followed by Karin Sita.
Hello, my name is Martha Lang and I live in Ward 1. I'm here to speak about the MOU with the University of Vermont Medical Center. I support quality care at an affordable price. I am opposed to the City of Burlington entering into a partnership with the University of Vermont Medical Center. I have sent you letters that they cannot make 2 and 2 add up to 4. In fact, it's tens of millions of dollars that they can't account for, and you're going to partner with them? The people of the state of Vermont are paying the highest commercial insurance rate, and they're getting poor quality care. Look at the attachment I sent to you about the Green Mountain Care's findings. By having this partnership, and that's what this MOU is, you are encouraging reprehensible behavior. Renaissance One project didn't happen without the city approving buildings. I think that we should all work towards Vermonters having accessible, quality medical care at an affordable price. We need to stand by Vermonters who work hard, who sacrifice to have medical insurance all the time. The University of Vermont Medical Center that you plan to partner with is giving their executives tremendous bonuses while they're cutting the care of dialysis patients. This will be a scar on the city of Burlington for the remainder of this administration's being here in Burlington. Please listen to what we're trying to tell you. Thank you.
Thank you. And our last speaker online is Karin Sita.
Thank you, Madam President. A woman's back in charge. You know, that's how I like it. Thank you, Madam President. You know how they say if a man doesn't do anything for you during Valentine's Day, he hates your guts? If a mayor doesn't do anything for you during Valentine's Day, she hates your guts. Is that not clear to Burlington? And again, I cannot deny the fact that I am undeniably Black and will forever be for the interests of my people and forever be entitled to making sure that our interest and our advancement is in the forefront of government. And I bet you when the end of the month comes around and Tahasi Coates comes around, she's going to take pictures with him, but yet disregard Black people in her city. And yet somehow we're going to allow issues of the transgender community to go before Black issues. And I'm not saying one issue is better than the other, but I have an interest for my people because she has an interest to her people. And it makes absolutely no sense to me why, one, we voted her. And I understand why they suppressed me every chance I got during election season to say there's something off about this woman. I understand now because, you know, I'm a child of God. God's light shines on me. Just like the children of Israel, I am favored and I'm never wrong. I was not wrong about this mayor. I'm not wrong about Jay-Z, okay? Because I know the war of litigation and I know how they are. I was not wrong about housing. I'm just never wrong. One can say I'm highly blessed and favored, always protected by God himself. So again, she hates her guts. And, you know, for her to not even mention it today after I told her, warned her, I mean, again, if they can do this to me, the prettiest, the blackest, the smartest, the boldest, I wonder what they're doing to the Black people at the bottom. That's why the courts are messed up. That's why the federal courts are messed up. That's why the state court doesn't even want to see me in person. I'm like, why are you so worried about a Black woman? And again, we need to do something. I understand why they don't like me. I'm bold. I'm always right. I keep my legs closed and I'm not worried about what's under women's legs. I'm focused about their brains. Unlike the mayor, I'm not worried about what's under women's legs. I'm focused on their brains. Her brain's wrong.
Thank you. We have one more speaker, which is, who is Sharon Busher. Let's see, Sharon, we are not currently hearing you.
Sharon, you should just be able to unmute on your end.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, now we hear you. Thank you.
All right, I was looking for the little thing saying unmute, but it didn't say that. Okay. Good evening. I'm here to speak also about the UVMMC MOU. So first of all, I value MOUs. I see how they help the city partner with institutions, entities, and bring us to a common goal. So I also value my big neighbor, UVMMC, and the healthcare that it provides to Burlington, Vermont, and upper state New York. The intent of the MOU is to allow the hospital to grow and thrive to meet the needs of an aging population, but a population in general. But it's also, the intent is also to protect the neighbors and the city from the negative impacts of that growth. So in the MOU, the original MOU, which I had my hand in, along with Chapin Spencer, a lot of the neighborhood kinds of things as far as access to open space, green space, the sliding hill, community gardens, just an area to play and recreate in, because Ward 1 doesn't really have any open space. It's all owned by the institutions around us, with the exception of Szymanska Park. So that is really important, and that has been retained. But there are two areas that I feel we've fallen short on. One is the height level that is allowed in the transitional buffer zone. Transitional buffers are supposed to be able to protect the neighbors from the impact. And what has happened is the height is too high and incompatible with the surrounding neighborhood. The hospital sits on a hill. That is problematic. The other has to do with the parking garage. It needs to be set back away from the bank, internal height, not spilling over to shadow or impact the surrounding neighborhood. Those two areas we have fallen short on. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Thank you. I've gone over. I apologize.
Thank you, former Councilor Busher. With no other speakers, we're going to close our public forum and go to City Council General City Affairs to include climate and public health and safety emergency updates. Are there any counselors who would like to speak? Counselor Grant, I don't know, can we, I guess we don't want to put a timer on. I'll put a timer on. Go ahead, Counselor Grant.
Thank you. I wanted to talk about a couple of things. First of all, our next Public Safety Committee meeting will be this Thursday, the 20th, starting at 5:30. It's a remote meeting, and the agenda and the Zoom link are in Civic Clerk. You can also access previous meetings to review a lot of information that has been collected and data and talking to people who represent various positions in our community response system. So we have an understanding of what they do, and we have an understanding of data that tracks what they do, and because not everybody is tracked inside of Valcor, which is primarily the police officers area where they put their incidents. I have been very troubled about some things recently, and I have been working in the public safety, community safety strata for going on under almost 6 years. And I have a lot of knowledge. I understand fully that people don't always agree with me. I understand fully that the opinion of a Black woman who is in the Progressive Party is just dismissed. I've dealt with a lot in terms of people trying to exclude my work and exclude a lot of, quite frankly, important knowledge that I have. I direct people to information all the time. I was on a well-known local talk show this morning, and the first two questions directed at me had to do with DEI. And we know what that means. That's the new N word right now. So people are moving away from using the Blacks to using language that is coming from the federal level of DEI, is someone who is Black, brown, another skin color, has a different sexuality or gender identity. Because they hold certain jobs, they therefore are not qualified. We need to be thinking about this, because we need to hang on to the Burlington that we love, and we need to really make honest decisions about what's going to be best about our police department, and that means addressing things that are, quite frankly, uncomfortable. I don't believe in trying to mislead people. I'm deeply concerned that that's been happening in some cases, and that doesn't really make people feel safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Grant. Any other counselors? No? Okay. Just checking on Zoom to make sure.
Actually, I will, if I may.
Okay. Councilor
I'll be
Litwin.
really, very brief. Given that Councilor Travers is not here at the moment, we received a request from the chair of the Board of Health, who has been, the Board of Health has been working on the syringe litter sort of analysis work and resolution, and their deadline to report back would have been tonight. They've had some sicknesses and other things that can sometimes cause delays, but they're moving right along, and I believe that they will do a great job, and so they have just asked for some additional time. I'm not sure what the protocol is, being new to the council, but I believe they would like to come and give a presentation in April on the 14th, and I think I certainly support the continued due diligence of our distinguished Board of Health in this matter, and I appreciate them having a special meeting and reaching out, and they have been agendizing these and listening to the public and continuing their research, which I'm very grateful for.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, we can move on to our consent agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda as amended? Moved by Councilor Bergman, seconded by Councilor McKnight. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That is unanimous. Thank you. The first item on our deliberative agenda is a presentation from, or a discussion about the Memorandum of Understanding with UVMMC. Is there, we can start with motion, or do we have, Mayor, do we have?
Well, I think the plan is that I have some city staff join me, as well as representatives from UVM Medical Center, and let them maybe join me at the table, and then I will begin. If that's okay with you?
Yes.
Thank you for your flexibility. So I'll let them get up there at the table. And as we start, I just want to begin with some appreciation for the work done to date. When I first began as mayor, you all can sit down while I'm talking, it's totally fine. When I first began as mayor, the prior administration had done a lot of pre-existing work and elements to this MOU, which I appreciate. You'll see in the agreement that was largely focused on some of the elements related to affordable housing, commitments for employees of UVM Medical Center, stormwater mitigation, especially as it relates to Centennial Woods, surface parking lot commitments to preserve green space and not putting more surface parking lots in place. But as I began as mayor, we had a number of immediate challenges in front of us, and we asked to slow down the process so we would have time to do more full vetting from at least my vantage point of making sure that the document, which is a voluntary agreement, reflected more additional pieces to benefit the city of Burlington. It is important to me when we have moments like this in a multi-year agreement that we're trying to push forward with what future generations need for the city and things that were not mentioned in the draft that I inherited as the new mayor. So I appreciate UVM Medical Center and my team internally taking the time to fully brief my new team and to get up to speed with what now is in front of you. So I do want to call out additional elements that were put forward in our negotiations since I've been mayor, since April, because those are important pieces to Burlington, as I mentioned before. You will find within this MOU a new element that speaks to labor standards for any new construction that is at the UVM Medical Center campus. This is much like the labor standards placed within the City Place Development Agreement, and this is an important element as we look to the workforce within Burlington and our region. You'll see reference to the city's livable wage standards, requirements of using contractors who have apprenticeship programs, offer health and retirement benefits. These are important minimum standards to make sure that workforce within our area and folks who work in the construction trades have livable and decent professional jobs, and that we can leverage that within our partnership with UVM Medical Center. You'll also see in here additional elements related to climate. That we want to continue to do more on transportation and looking at their transportation demand management provisions for employees and the impacts that it has on traffic. You'll see references in there around continuing to push in this direction for employees and acknowledging that, as folks have mentioned in public comment, around the parking there, this is around the growth for what patient care is needed, and we have been really engaged in conversations around where employees and the traffic that we can take off the pressure of local streets, where that can come from with a transportation demand management plan. While we also continue on the climate element to facilitate more elements of being climate resilient and reducing the climate impacts with any new construction build up there. That is an important element as Burlington continues to try to do its part for climate change. You'll see new language in there also around collaboration with Burlington Electric Department and pushing more innovation around battery storage and ways that we can reduce the demand when we're at a peak moment in energy use by using the partnership with UVM Medical Center to explore new technologies such as battery storage, for which this council and my office have talked about in other areas within the city. And then finally, another big piece as we continue to figure out how Burlington manages the infrastructure needs for our city, for all residents, and folks within the city. We have an agreement to continue to work on conversations related to supporting the city's vital infrastructure needs related to our water system. We've talked a lot related to bonds lately here at the council. The medical center is a critical user of our water system, and they also need a working system. So we have commitments through other documentation you have in front of you around that agreement to know that we are in it all together here around making sure that they are partners in figuring out infrastructure investments and support. So I, again, will end where I started with appreciations around what work has been put into this agreement and the pass off from one administration to the next as we continue to move forward with some important elements related to what the city needs going forward. And now that folks are seated there, I'm going to pass it over to city staff if they have any additional comments to be made on this item. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we go to city staff, I want to go to Councilor Travers.
Thank you, Acting President Shannon. I just need to note my recusal from this matter due to a professional conflict of interest, and would just ask that the minutes reflect that in any vote when we get to that point. Thank you.
I want to make sure that we leave time for councilor questions. Go ahead.
Likewise, neither Chapin nor I have any statements to prepare. We would like to answer any questions, though, so I think we'll turn it back to you.
Okay. Sir.
Sure. So good evening. I'm joined here by my colleague Dave Kilty, who hopefully is on Zoom. So for the record, I'm Karen Bastine, and I am the senior I almost said my wrong job title, so that shows that I'm a little nervous. So let's start again. So I'm Karen Bastine, and I'm the Senior Officer of Community Relations for the UVM Health Network. And first of all, I just want to say thank you for having us back here for a potential vote this evening. This has been a long journey. I might even call it an odyssey, where I'm pretty sure that the neighbors in Ward 1 have all become development specialists because we have met so much. And I have deep appreciation for their engagement in this process, and likewise, your all engagement in this process. So as we explained in our first meeting with you last month, the purpose of the MOU is to be a statement of intent, and it is also meant to exemplify our partnership with the city. And I'm going to actually turn it over to Dave Kilty, hopefully, to give the next points.
And he is on.
Hi, I think I'm connected. You could confirm that would be good.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, thank you. So talking about the long-range planning, I wanted to make a couple of points here. We're not presenting any specific building project at this juncture. The whole point of the long-range planning is try to understand what would be the parameters of which we would look to develop on the medical center campus. We are responding to the needs that have been projected in terms of increasing patient volume that we expect. And this is based on demographic and census information, as well as, other factors. We need to ensure that we can meet our future demand for inpatient care, and we'd like to do that on the medical center campus. What that means is that we'll need to build higher, and we would need to add parking. And I think there's exhibits in the MOU that describes that. We're trying to keep the highest growth height in the center of the campus. But we are going to need to build higher. There's no room to go horizontally. The campus is essentially fully built out from that standpoint. But I wanted to emphasize that we're fully committed to mitigating the impact on congestion, and we'll continue to innovate solutions as a part of our participation and leadership in CATMA, but also in ongoing collaboration with the city. We value that very much, and you can be assured that you have our commitment to do that. We also recognize that our collective responsibility to take climate crisis into account as we plan further developments on the campus. And we strive to develop the most sustainable and energy efficient projects that we can. We have a really good track record of doing that. And that will be an ongoing commitment that we have to the city to ensure that we can develop the most sustainable projects with the minimal amount of fossil fuel consumption possible. The further reassurances about commitments, there's a number of items that are contained within MOU dealing with transportation demand management, energy efficiency, coordination with city departments, which I'd like to point out, we have ongoing great collaborations. We'll be meeting on an ongoing basis with Public Works, Burlington Electric, and others to ensure that we're keeping in constant communication about what we're doing. Further, our labor practices for construction contracts, we fully embrace fair compensation for workers, the ability to have health care and maintain their education through apprenticeship programs and build for a future retirement. We're fully committed to that. And we are a partner in housing affordability and availability and want to work with the city creatively to figure out the most innovative ways to be able to do that. There is further, again, we're not talking about any specific projects here. This memorandum of understanding talks about general parameters. There is significant accountability and oversight for any development projects that we would bring forward. You have a rigorous and robust permitting process, and we would expect to engage in that. And that provides for, I would say, the first stop that we have is with our neighbors on any projects before we even propose a project or start thinking about a project in any serious manner. We always consult with our neighbors and we'll continue to do that. We feel it's extremely important to, if we can, satisfy the growth of inpatient beds on the medical center campus. And there's a couple of points I want to make on that. One is we're an academic medical center. We have a co-location. We're actually physically linked with the Lerner College of Medicine, the university's medical school, which we are a teaching entity within that with the residency and student programs. That's a vital connection for us, and we think it's best maintained if we're able to continue to be physically connected with the College of Medicine. The splitting the campus, as maybe some have suggested, and moving to another location would really create duplication of services and would create inefficiencies that will drive costs beyond our current expenses. You can imagine trying to maintain two different patient populations at different locations. How do you handle emergency care? What do you do with birthing? What do you do about community services that we provide? It just creates a host of complexity that we certainly would like to avoid. And most significantly, we believe that the campus in Burlington is better for the city and better for the city's residents. We've had a presence there since 1879, and it's our hometown, and we cherish that. And we believe it's in the best interest of ourselves and the city for us to maintain in Burlington. Thank you very much.
And I just have a few more comments. So I wanted to note this was in the first memo that you all received in your packet when we met on January 13th, but it just highlights, I just want to highlight this, and as the mayor did as well, that outside of this MOU that we have two additional commitments. One is that we have agreed and actually will be starting in October, access to an unlimited bus pass program for all of our employees on the UVM Medical Center campus. And then additionally, we have agreed and have already had one meeting so far with DPW to better understand the water infrastructure needs and potential impacts on the city. And I also just want to make a note about process. So I want to say thank you to the city councilors who have raised questions and suggestions since our presentation last month. We believe that the MOU and our stated commitment to our partnership have been further strengthened by your input. We also wish, as I've noted already, to convey our deep gratitude for the neighbors for their participation in our work sessions and their commitment to the neighborhood. We had 6 meetings ranging between an hour and a half and 2 hours over the last year, which is a significant time investment, and we're grateful for it. And it's important for us to note that while we're hopeful for the council's support this evening, we acknowledge concerns persist among our immediate neighbors about the future of our campus. Please know that we are committed to continuing to be transparent with our neighbors and fully following local and state regulations. Our approach will remain that our neighbors will hear from us first about significant proposed changes on our campus. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to go to the council now. Are there councilors who have questions, or would Councilor Bergman?
Well, might as well be the one to start. So first of all, I want to appreciate the work of the administration in the new changes that have happened since we last got this in the old administration. I also thank UVMMC. Thank you, Karen. As many of you, or if not all of you, know, I've been working on this for a while and been pushing for changes. I met with UVMMC and planning people as far back as April. So I have definitely been interested in an improved MOU. I personally support growth on the campus instead of by suburbanization, and I clearly appreciate the need to deal with patient care needs, including parking, as somebody who has to go up there on a very periodic basis and has to try to find parking when I go up there, or when my wife or other family members have to go up there. So I definitely appreciate that. And I do think that the MOU is improved, particularly in regard to traffic and climate, as well as the labor issues and the local economy. And those are, for those who are interested in looking at it, in paragraphs 15 and 18 and 23 and 24. These are things that I have been pushing for a while. I did push for, people should know, 3 additional changes that did not make them into this document. And I do believe that they are implicit in the document. I'm going to go through them if I can get that out, and that it is part of the legislative intent. So I would have liked for them to be explicit, but it is my reading of this agreement that they're included in it. I believe that this agreement recognizes that the institutional needs that we reference have to and do take into account the climate crisis, the need to minimize fossil fuel consumption in transportation and building energy use, the need to protect adjacent neighborhoods from adverse effects of increased traffic, the need to minimize congestion on our streets, especially the arterial streets, and the need to support adjacent neighbors' access to adequate sunlight. I have mentioned this in regard to the canyoning effect. There have been comments related to the commitment to support the increased parking. It is my belief that this agreement is that is implicit in it, that it's understood that city staff that is charged with commenting on and advising regulatory entities in regard to permit applications shall be able to perform their customary and usual duties in service to those bodies, including the development of analyses and recommendations based on the regulations that exist during that time. That means that, in my estimation, this agreement does not muzzle our planning department, our DPW, or any other department when we're faced with regulatory requests, permit requests, and they get a chance to really analyze them. It doesn't say, well, they just can't comment it because this agreement puts them in support of that. And then finally, I had pushed for particularity with regard to TDM, and it is not exactly what I had asked for, but there is something in there, and it's enough that I think that we have got a chance to do something right if we both do what we say we're going to do. So the last thing I want to ask is for staff, the outstanding issues as far as I see them are height and setback. Those are the lingering ones which, and I would love for staff, so Chapin, you're probably off the hook on that one, but Charles, not, in terms of how this will deal with the, I think, legitimate concerns of neighbors around height and, you know, the shadows that are cast. Thank you.
And Charles has 30 seconds to answer that question.
Right, so the MOU doesn't propose changing any of the existing regulations, which allow buildings generally between, I would say, 7 and 8 stories in that transitional buffer. The setback is 15 feet from the right-of-way. Certainly, that could be concerning to some people. I will note that the distance between buildings would be about 100 feet, so that's about a 1-to-1 ratio of height to width, which is typically understood as a pretty good urban design standard. That said, certainly my office is proposing that we conduct an area planning process to look into this in a detailed fashion. This is how we do it in other parts of the city, and I think the community deserves it. The berm, that's something that we would look at as well. The streetscape design, I think, is really important. I certainly think that plopping a 7-8 story building down without significant improvements to the streetscape to improve the pedestrian experience, particularly for safety, would be a bad thing. So I think that we need to think holistically about how, if height is coming, how can that be mitigated by better urban design practices along Colchester Avenue and East Avenue for that matter.
Thank you. While that went over time, I think that Councilor Bergman's comments get to the crux of most of the council concerns, as well as Mr. Dillard's answer. Are there any other questions or comments from, is it Carter? Oh, Mila. Councilor Grant, go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that what we have landed with makes a lot of people unhappy. And sometimes that's what happens with compromises. No one group of people is fully satisfied. I appreciate the additional work that Mayor Mulvaney Stanek has done. I agree with the things that Councilor Bergman worked on and the statements that he said. I do want to address something because I have seen the emails where they're like, if this was your district, would you let this happen? And the answer is yes, I would. And the reason is follows. First of all, we already have larger buildings going up in the central district. There's projects in queue. There's the quote unquote pit building going up. So we're going to see taller buildings. We want taller buildings. We need more housing. We need more housing. We have, everybody knows, a severe shortage of units that's dramatically increasing pricing. We have a large number of people living on our streets. So yes, I would want this without question. And for people that are younger, they want this. Now, I understand why people who are older worry about their neighborhood changing. I do have a certain empathy with that, but the fact of the matter is we need housing units. We need to increase our grand list, and we need to be taking pressure off Central District. We are very densely populated. We carry a property tax burden. If UVMMC is going to expand and have more jobs, that's actually very important for the city of Burlington and for our businesses. So yes, I support it for that. In some ways it doesn't go far enough, but we can't really push things. So my understanding is and Director Dillard, you can explain this a little better than I can. It's not a contract, it's an agreement. So we can only push so hard to get this compromise. And those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we might go a little bit over time, but I want to be sure that Councillor Newbeezer gets to speak since this is his district, and after that, we will be going to a vote. Councillor, we're out of time here. Is it urgent? Okay, thank you. So Councillor Newbeezer, go ahead.
Thank you, Council President. Thank you for the extra time, and apologies to folks for not being able to attend in person. My household, I'm parenting 2 kids, being a city councilor at the moment. Our household's going through strep and norovirus the last 48 hours. So that said, it's really important. This is a really important subject and topic, and I appreciate folks who spoke tonight, but many folks who did not spoke tonight who have been really engaged in this conversation over the last number of years now. So I just want to say, make it clear where I stand and what's informing my vote tonight. In principle, I think it is important that we have MOUs in place with large institutions like the hospital. These are a tool that we can use to protect our community and build a productive working partnership with these organizations. I also want to say I deeply appreciate the work of city staff, the mayor's office, and representatives from the hospital. That said, I also want to make it clear, and I think it's important to acknowledge that I certainly do not trust the leadership of the hospital, not the representatives we've been working with. They're lovely, actually. But the leadership of the hospital, I do not trust. I don't think the majority of folks in our neighborhood trust. And I also don't think there's much good reason to trust those folks. Top leadership of the hospital has price gouged Vermonters. They continue to pursue profits and excessive administrative bloat over the health and financial well-being of Vermonters. They've cracked poverty as an organization, shut down facilities and services that we all rely on, continue not to pay most of their workers adequately, and resist the efforts of regulators at the state level to hold them accountable.
I don't think it's appropriate to impugn the intentions of anybody here.
Council President, I'm not doing that. Specifically, I want to say
Point of order. No, I had first point of order. I don't believe that he was doing that at all.
This is the chair's prerogative. Councilor Litwin, what is your point?
My point of order is the comments are not germane to the item at hand.
Go ahead with your comments, Councilor Newbeezer.
Thank you, Council President. I do think they're germane because we're talking about the community's relationship with this institution. That said, at the same time all this is happening, they have paid their top leadership multi-million-dollar bonuses and opened up facilities in New York across the lake. So that's the context we're operating in, and we have to acknowledge that because I do think it is very relevant. All that said, this is an MOU, and as such is a voluntary agreement that is non-binding. Nothing in this MOU, to my understanding, and I've gotten reassured of this adequately, is legally binding the city to do anything. And I think we have to also understand, and residents should be thinking about this conversation in that context. I'll also say that some of the language that is sort of binding sounding, even though it's an MOU, has raised real concerns and is not language I would have necessarily wordsmithed myself. I also think it is very clear that there have been real strides around labor protections, climate and clean energy, and traffic management as compared to the previous version of this MOU, all areas that when I was engaged with around this MOU, I raised, and I really do appreciate the movement around. I also think it's important to note that as others have spoken to, any new development must go through the regular process which any development would be subject to, and that allows neighbors in our neighborhood an opportunity to oppose unreasonable or inappropriate development and put a stop to it. So with that, I feel very torn about how I'm going to vote tonight. I'm actually not sure whether I'm going to vote for or against. Have gone back and forth in discussions with Ward 1 residents. because I do have real concerns, and I think there's a legitimate conversation to continue. And at the same time, it is important that this agreement's in place, and we have seen real improvement. And I'll pass back to the chair. Thank you.
Thank you. My apologies to the hospital for not reacting to that sooner. Our time is up on this item, so we should go to, actually, we need a motion in order to go to a vote. Is there a motion? Councillor Bergman.
I would move to approve and authorize the mayor to sign the Memorandum of Understanding and Agreement between the City of Burlington and the University of Vermont Medical Center, subject to the review and approval of the City Attorney's Office.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Barlow. I think we have had our discussion prior to this motion, so if everyone is ready, I think we can go to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
So that is, what do we have? 10 in favor, 1 opposed?
I think you have to do roll call.
Councilor Newbeezer. Do we need a roll call if we have? Oh. Ben's online. Oh, Ben's recused, right. Okay, do we need a roll call? Okay, go ahead.
Councillor Barlow?
Yes.
Councillor Bergman?
Yes.
Councillor Broderick?
Yes.
Councillor Carpenter?
Yes.
Councillor Grant?
Yes.
Councillor Kane?
Yes.
Councillor Litwin?
Yes.
Councillor McKnight?
Yes.
Councillor Newbeezer?
No.
Acting City Council President Shannon?
Yes.
9 ayes, 1 nay, and 1 recusal.
Thank you. So the motion passes. And thank you all very much for all of your work. Thank you, Mayor Mulvaney-Stanek, for your work to reach this very, very critical agreement for our community. I appreciate it's maybe not everything that everyone wanted, but it's extremely important. So thank you.
Thank you.
With that, I think we should go to our other meetings, and we'll go to the Board of Civil Authority first, followed by City Council with Mayor presiding. If you're all ready, the first motion, the first item on the agenda is the agenda. Is there a motion to? It's mine, I'm told. The first item on the agenda is the agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda? Board of Civil Authority, yes. Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 The next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda and take the actions indicated?
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Bergman, seconded by Councillor Barlow. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That is unanimous. And with no other business, we will adjourn the Board of Civil Authority, and I will pass the gavel to the mayor for City Council with Mayor presiding.
Thank you, Acting President Shannon. So I'm going to call to order the City Council meeting with Mayor presiding on February 18th, 2025 at 7:29 p.m. Our first item is the agenda. Is there a motion on the agenda?
So moved.
Moved by Councilor Bergman. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilor
Second.
Barlow. Oh, I saw Councilor Barlow's hand first. Sorry, Councilor Grant. Is there any further discussion on the agenda before we vote? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. On to our second item, which is the consent agenda. Is there a motion on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilor Barlow. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Grant. Is there any, is there any discussion on the consent agenda motion before we vote? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to item number 3, and our first item, which is 3.1, our Parks and Recreation Commission, one open seat, term expiring June 30th, 2026. And a reminder on our process, I will first ask if there's nominations from the floor, and then we will take one nomination at a time. I will ask if that nominated individual is present to speak to the council before we would then call the vote. And if a nomination is not successful in receiving the votes required for appointment, then we will move to a second round of nominations. A reminder, you have yes, no, and abstention as your options. I'm getting down how to say this in a succinct way. So there you go. Ready? Okay. So are there any nominations for the Parks and Recreation Commission, term expiring June 30th, 2026? Councilor Barlow.
I'd like to nominate David Marr.
There is a nomination of David Marr. And with that nomination, we will go to seeing if this individual is present, which I think I saw him. Yeah. Hi, David. You want to come up and introduce yourself with just a couple minutes, please? Sure. Thank you.
Is this, I guess it's turned on here. For those who don't know me, my name's Dave Marr. I normally go by Dave, but I respond to David as well and many other things. I've been in this general area since I started UVM in 1973. I've lived in a number of places in the surrounding communities, but in 1991, I moved to the new north end of Burlington, along with my wife and 2 young children. One reason I moved is because I could ride to work on the bike path, and I did that every day that the weather permitted, and I didn't have other factors that came into play, like needing a car at lunch to run an errand or something like that. I also liked the fact that Letty Park was right nearby. There are tennis courts there, there's a beach there, there's also North Beach right down the way there, and I enjoy all those. I also like Ethan Allen Park, which is across the way there. I go there and exercise, go for walks, that sort of thing. Also, I like to look out over the pinnacle and take a look across the lake. I got involved when somebody started cutting trees to put a disc golf course over at Letty. A lot of people in my neighborhood didn't like the disc golf course, partly because they were cutting trees down and they didn't really have a formal process for deciding to put disc golf in. So I got involved and I spoke against that. And luckily, that disc golf was shut down. We also recently saw a presentation on the future of Letty that was conducted at Letty Park itself. And some things I liked, some things I didn't. They talked about cutting some trees down for more athletic fields. I didn't think we needed more athletic fields, so I was against that, put a comment in on that. I did like the idea of pickleball courts separated from the tennis ball courts. Now, if those of you who play tennis with pickleball next door, you may find the sound of the pickleball on the pickleball paddles a little annoying, like I do. So I think it's best to have separate pickleball courts away from the tennis courts. So I would support that. I'd also support an outdoor ice skating rink in Burlington. I think that's a great thing. It could bring the community together, good for the tourists who come here in the winter. Those who don't go skiing could skate, and good place to socialize, have a concession with hot chocolate and things like that. So again, I've been in the New North End since 1991, and I would be proud to represent the New North End on the Parks and Rec Commission. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Marr. I appreciate it. Is there any discussion on the nomination on the floor of David Marr? Councilor Barlow.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to point out that with the recent resignation of Commissioner Morgan, we don't have a New North End person representing, or a person representing the New North End on the Parks Commission. So Dave Marr would, help us have a more balanced commission. So that's one of the reasons I'm supporting him. He spoke for himself, so I don't have to add anything more to his accolades. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Barlow. Any other discussion on this nomination? Seeing none, I will call the question, and reminder that you have one affirmative vote each seat. So if your candidate, you get one yes vote on the candidate you choose for this particular seat, or a no vote or an abstention vote. And with that, will the clerk call the roll, please?
Counselor Barlow,
Yes.
Counselor Bergman,
Abstention.
Counselor Broderick,
Abstention.
Counselor Carpenter,
Abstention.
Counselor Grant,
Abstention?
Counselor Kane,
Abstention.
Counselor Litwin,
Abstain.
Counselor McKnight,
Abstain.
Counselor Newbeezer,
No.
Acting City Council President Shannon,
Yes.
Councilor Travers,
I abstain.
and Mayor Mulvaney Stanek.
I vote no.
I have 2 ayes, 2 nays, and 8 abstentions.
Thank you. The nominated individual did not receive enough votes for the seat, so we move on to any other nominations for the seat. Councilor McKnight.
Yes, I'd like to nominate Katie Flanagan Mobley.
Thank you. Is Ms. Flanagan Mobley here to address or online to address the council? Seeing none, is there any discussion on the nomination? Councilor Shannon.
I'm a little bit confused by the process, so I just wanted to clarify. I think we only get to vote yes once in each round, but this appears to be a separate round. So may I vote yes?
So we have a point of information on the process. So City Attorney Brown, would you clarify the voting and how many times a councilor gets to vote on the seat in an affirmative?
So that's the way to think about it. It's for this seat, you only get to vote yes once. So if there are 2 or 3 nominees, if you use your yes vote on the first nominee and that nomination is not successful, you have no more yes votes. You can only abstain or vote no on any subsequent nominees.
Thank you, City Attorney Brown. All set?
Thank you.
Councilor Shannon, I think I could call you that in this particular meeting, I think. Yes?
Yes.
Sure. Okay, great.
Call me whatever you want.
No, it will be Councilor Shannon. Any further discussion on the nomination of Katie Flanagan Mobley? Councilor McKnight.
I just want to express my support for Katie Flanagan Mobley. She is a mom to 2 kids, using the parks regularly with her family. She has a goal in her application to champion the work of the department and ensure that programming continues to be inclusive of all the residents of Burlington. I applaud her, calling out that it's important to be invested in her community and her willingness to help the department connect with a variety of stakeholders. Just want to express my support there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor McKnight. Any further discussion on the nomination? Oh, I thought you were going for it, Councilor Bergman, but you just moved. Okay. All right. So seeing no further discussion, I will call the question on the vote. Will the clerk, everyone clear on the voting, I think, at this point? So will the clerk please call the roll?
So with Councilor Barlow and Acting City Council President Shannon voting yes.
Their options are no or abstention.
Okay. Councilor Barlow,
Abstain.
Councilor Bergman,
Yes.
Councilor Broderick,
Yes.
Councilor Carpenter,
Yes.
Councilor Grant,
Yes.
Councilor Kane,
Yes.
Councilor Litwin,
Yes.
Councilor McKnight,
Yes.
Councilor Newbeezer,
Yes.
Acting City Council President Shannon,
Abstain.
Councilor Travers,
Yes.
Mayor Mulvaney Stanek.
Yes.
Ten ayes and 2 abstentions.
Thank you. Congratulations, Katie Flanagan Mobley. We appreciate your service to the city. And to Dave Marr, thank you for putting yourself forward and your commitment to our Parks and Rec department and the parks, of course, in our city. Moving on to our next item, item 3.2, which is a police commission seat, term expiring June 30th, 2026. We will follow the same process. So first I will ask if there's any nominations. We'll see if any of the nominated individuals are here, and then we will have any discussion, and then I will call the vote. Okay, so are there any nominations? Councillor Carpenter.
Thank you. I'd be pleased to nominate Michaela Finneran. Michaela has an interesting background. She's a lifelong Vermonter and knows Burlington well, but also has a great national background, and I think she'd be a really good fit for a police commission with her depth and work with the Democratic National Committee, which now she works out at Burlington, Vermont, so has plenty of capacity to contribute to our commission, and has lots of background and work as a union steward and union organizer for the Democratic National Committee.
Thank you, Councillor Carpenter. Is the nominee here, Michaela Finneran? If you would like to come up and say a few words, totally up to you. Welcome.
Good evening, councilors and Mayor Mulvaney Stanek. My name is Michaela Finneran, and I'm honored to be considered tonight for a position on the Police Commission. I'm applying for this role because I believe that our community is safest when there's partnership and trust between law enforcement and residents. And I believe the Police Commission plays a key role in facilitating that trust. I grew up in Burlington and recently moved to Ward 5 after living downtown in Ward 3 and in the Old North End in Ward 1. I understand and respect that different communities in Burlington have differing relationships with the police, and if appointed, my goal is to strengthen public trust among all residents, especially those who have historically felt unheard or over-policed, by ensuring BPD operates with integrity and transparency. Living downtown, I saw firsthand the need for more officers to appropriately handle the high volume of calls that the police department receives. As a commissioner, I hope to support recruitment efforts so BPD can meet the demand for services while fostering a stronger relationship with residents. I've never worked with law enforcement, but as a union steward, I have firsthand experience holding my employer accountable to workers. I've negotiated contracts, advocated for fairness, and ensured that concerns aren't just heard but acted upon. I believe those same commitments to accountability and equity should apply to policing. With that experience, I'm ready to bring a thoughtful, community-centered perspective to the Police Commission. I'd be grateful for the opportunity to serve, and I respectfully ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any further discussion on the nomination of Michaela Finneran? Councillor Newbeeser?
Would it be appropriate to ask the nominee a question prior to voting?
Yes. Hold on, let me phone a friend for a second. Okay. It is discussion, so the state attorney says sure. So Councillor Newbeeser, and I should say, if the nominee would be willing to be asked the question, it is up to them. And she's coming back to the table, Councillor Newbeeser. So go ahead, please.
Well, thank you for entertaining one. I wondered if you were supportive of the, and now I'm going to blank on the name of it here, sickness brain here, but the recent measure that voters passed around greater oversight and accountability on the police department.
Yes, I voted in support of it. That's part of why I'm applying for this role. I believe that oversight is really important.
All right, thank you. That's all I got.
Thank you. Any further discussion or questions by the council before we vote? Okay. Kayla, thank you very much. So with that, I will call the question and ask for the roll.
Councillor Barlow?
Yes.
Councillor Bergman?
Yes.
Councillor Broderick?
Yes.
Councillor Carpenter?
Yes.
Councillor Grant?
Yes.
Councillor Kane?
Yes.
Councillor Litwin?
Yes.
Councillor McKnight?
Yes.
Councillor Newbeeser?
Yes.
Acting City Council President Shannon?
Yes.
Councillor Travers,
Yes.
Mayor Mulvaney Stanek.
Yes.
Twelve ayes.
Thank you very much. And Michaela, thank you so much for being willing to serve on our police commission. Congratulations. And with no other business, I will adjourn the meeting of the City Council with Mayor presiding at 7:45 p.m. and pass the gavel, the invisible gavel, back to acting President Shannon.
We'll resume our city council meeting where we left off at item 6.2, a resolution support for the Second Amendment to Predevelopment Agreement for South End Coordinated Redevelopment. I don't know if, Brian Pine, are you going to kick this off, or Mayor, or?
Yep, I'm going to just briefly kick this one off, just to cue us up for this pre-development regarding, hold on, too many papers over here, our C-Chord development in the South End. So the pre-development agreement in front of you tonight will further the collaborative planning work already underway from the 2023 Memorandum of Understanding that the Council approved already. It identifies an agreed-upon set of foundational objectives and design goals to which we are making commitments for ongoing study and collaboration. It really is an exciting design and development opportunity within the South End that continues the work of the Council in years past, because this is an opportunity to really look at intentionally designing a neighborhood that clearly focuses on housing, clearly focuses on our climate goals, as well as such as having a car-light design neighborhood, which is quite an innovative opportunity, as well as the public use of space and green space at that. The agreement assumes that the parties will work together on a site-wide housing plan with a minimum of 20% for affordable housing units. There's a public realm conceptual design to this, to my point around public space being a piece of this, as well as a joint PUD, which stands for a planned use development, because there's an umbrella plan needed, because there's many parcels involved here, including a parcel that the city of Burlington owns, as well as Champlain College, and then the developers themselves. The parties will also continue to study the infrastructure challenges and needs and opportunities on the site and in that area, as well as potential funding mechanisms. You'll hear me speak a lot about infrastructure. It is everywhere needed in the city, and we want to be mindful of the South End in particular. Based on the outcome of the work, we anticipate we'll be prepared to enter a formal development agreement by summer 2025. And at this point, I'll pass it over to staff with enough of that as the context. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian Pine.
Yeah, for the record, it's Brian Pine, Director of the Community and Economic Development Office. Thanks for having us tonight. We are here essentially to just extend an existing agreement, which is the pre-development agreement that was executed last March. And essentially the way that was described at the time, which still is true today, is it's really an agreement to seek agreement on a number of issues. So there's I think a fair amount of work that's been done, that's been documented in the materials that we submitted. I did note that the existing pre-development agreement actually expires in 2 days. So our timing is fantastic to be here. It's almost worked out that way, but it wasn't necessarily, we had thought we were coming earlier, maybe last month or earlier this month. So we are looking for essentially a period of 4 more months to conduct additional assessment and due diligence, leading to proposing a development agreement that we hope will be ready by about the second week of September. So there is a gap there between agreements, but that's not problematic because we believe the bulk of the work will be completed and we'll be working on the draft of that bigger development agreement, which will spell out roles and responsibilities and who is responsible for various funding pieces for the public infrastructure and those types of issues. So 2 fellow directors here available we're all here to answer your questions tonight.
Any questions? I think maybe it would be, because our questions often get into the debate of the resolution that we're moving forward, I think it would be good to have a motion on the floor. And I think that Councillor Travers, or President Travers, was going to make that motion.
Yes, I would move to, well, there is no recommended action actually listed on Civic Clerk on this. So I think I'll capture it though by saying that I would move to waive the reading and adopt the resolution, Acting President Shannon, and would ask for the floor back upon a second.
Thank you. Is there a second? Seconded by Councillor Carpenter. And you wanted the floor back, President Travers?
Just very briefly, I think it's obvious that there's something going around in our community right now. Councillor Newbeezer's a brave man coming off camera there. I won't do the same to you all. And apologies for not being able to be there this evening. But sickness aside, couldn't pass up the opportunity to put some praise on this project. Acting President Shannon, you and I were on the Ordinance Committee together as we worked on the rezoning of the South End Innovation District. And it's incredibly exciting to now see that rezoning effort coming to life through this Secord project. I don't think the city could have asked for better partners in seeing this project through in Ride Your Bike and Champlain College. I appreciate the folks from Ride Your Bike in particular's efforts to continuously reach out to councilors to keep them updated on the progress that's happening on this project. Appreciate Director Pine in particular for all of his work with that team in getting us to where we are right now. Obviously, a good ways to go here, but it's very exciting and could make a huge impact on the serious housing needs that we have here in Burlington. So thank you to everyone. I will be looking forward to supporting this. I suppose there are just two questions that I would like to put out there, Acting President Shannon, and I wouldn't necessarily expect Director Pine and others there to have an answer this evening, but I think it would be good in the coming weeks and months to get some answers to them, and apologies in advance for not forwarding these questions beforehand. But one question is, obviously the city as a partner to this agreement does have its own land on Sears Lane as a part of this project. And I will be curious to learn more when the time is right about what the city's proposal is as to how it intends on using its parcel as we move forward here. My other question is, as with, I would say, any development project in my experience, time is sometimes of the essence, and too much time can sometimes be to the detriment of a project continuing to move forward on schedule. Obviously, I know that there's in this amended pre-development agreement a number of items that all the partners are going to have to be participating in terms of continuing to explore the feasibility of development in this space. And it's an open-ended question to the city in particular about sort of what efforts we are going to undertake to ensure that the city is able to live up to its side of the bargain in terms of some of the feasibility assessments here. Do we plan on bringing in third-party consultants and contractors, for example, to get that done? Is it something that we're handling in-house? So again, wouldn't necessarily expect Councillor Shannon to have answers to those questions this evening, but they will be two questions that I'll be looking forward to following up on. And just generally speaking, I want to thank all the partners here and Director Pine for getting us to this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you want to answer briefly?
I think that's the second question for sure. The first one has far more work to be done. But the second question is, I think, a point that we want to highlight here is that we as a city now have federal funds that have been obligated. We have a cooperative agreement with the U.S. Department of Transportation. It's a long sort of bureaucratic title of the funding, but it's called Innovative Finance and Asset Concession Grant Program. What it essentially means is the federal government is giving the city and there's no local match, it's $1 million to put toward experts, technical services, legal services, environmental consulting, design work, engineers, really a whole host of professionals to help us advance the project. So we have that that cooperative agreement has been signed, and I just confirmed today that even though our key staff person is no longer there, other people will be filling the role of the staff person for us to get access to those funds. So we're already moving on that.
Okay, thank you. Can I just get a gauge of how many people want to talk? 1, 2, 3. Okay. I think we can then go with our 5 minutes each, and those who didn't raise their hand, you'll be left to split the minute that is left. Go ahead, Councilor Bergman.
Thank you, and thank you to you, and I think the some of the private parties are in the back there too, so thank you for all that work. You mentioned in the documents a minimum of 20% affordable housing, so I want to understand how that can be raised, because I believe we have an affordability process, a problem here. And the other thing is in terms of the mix of housing, I'm interested in it not just being 1 bedroom or maybe even 2 bedroom places, because I believe that particularly with proximity to the school that's down there, that having family housing, so I'd like you to address that. Let me just list them all. I'm interested in the impact on the Trump freeze. So you started to mention that, but you know, a little bit more explanation on that. And finally, I just want to reiterate, as I have stated in the work sessions that we've had, my support for vigorous TDM and the need for us to be exploring those strategies, not just for people getting there, but people being able to get out around the county, because where people work as well as where they live is important, and this is a great opportunity. So those are the 3 things. Thank you.
We'll take those. I think I'm going to ask Charles or Chapin to take the TDM issue, because I think you've worked on that more. So.
Yeah, just on TDM, throughout this process, we have been working with Roger Bike and Champlain College on the concept of a mobility hub that would include significant indoor bike parking, very large bank of car share cars, and I think that initial idea on car share specifically came from Roger Bike, and we're excited about that and hope that we follow through on that. That would be both for existing sort of workers at Hula, but also any new folks who are living within the development or in the South End generally. Improved infrastructure. I'll let Chapin speak to the infrastructure, but just want to mention that part of this is building redundancy into the bicycle and pedestrian network, improving the connection from the Lakeside neighborhood at the railroad crossing at Harrison Avenue. And of course, this development will be coming at a time when we have already likely approved our future TDM regulations, and we'll be working with the 2 committee on that. And so I think that I'll just close there to say that we have a big opportunity to sort of treat this development as a sort of test case for our new TDM regulations.
Well said, Charles. Thank you. I'd add on that we are hoping to bring an update on the Transportation Options Study to the upcoming TUC meeting, Transportation, Energy, Utilities Committee meeting. We're finalizing that agenda soon. The 3 areas of infrastructure that I am most focused on here is parking, traffic, and wastewater. All of these, to President Travers's question, will have third-party consultants helping all of us bring forward a concept that will maximize the value and address longstanding deficiencies in these areas. So we have our work cut out for us. This is not going to be easy. The wastewater capacity is not just a constraint for this project, but a constraint in the South End overall. And if we have a goal to build more housing, the wastewater capacity in the South End is a major constraint on our community's goals. So if there's a way that we can partner with a developer to be part of the solution, I think we can get to an answer faster than if we were working just alone.
I would attempt to answer the question about the administration in DC with respect to freezing federal funds and just say that so far, all lights have been green with respect to this grant. Transportation dollars for this type of project are viewed, I think, fairly favorably across the board. So it's almost specific to what you're funding and what you're doing with it. So I would point that out. Family housing remains an issue that we, the city, we are committed to expanding the number of bedrooms and the size of the units so that we can have serve a truly diverse mix of households. It's hard to make predictions and promises about large units and those types of things until you have an actual development program worked out. So I think it's a point well taken, and it's something along with the increasing the affordability above the 20%, but that is the required number for the inclusionary requirement. So our goal is to both go deeper on affordability and hopefully if we can get above the 20%, that's something that we will strive for as well. And I think that's obviously the city has its land, and so it can really take that land and prioritize those types of public policy goals.
Thank you. Thank you. Councilor Carpenter, I think, did you want to speak to this? Somebody over here did.
You
don't have to.
I don't have to, but I'll say, I'm really excited about the possibilities down there. It's a neighborhood I'm sort of grew up in, and I'm excited, and it's a great place for housing. And I want to ask, though, when we might get more updates just on sort of where you are in the process. I think tonight is not the night, but I'm anxious just to understand, how are we doing and when are we going to get some buildings?
Yeah, I think we could certainly come back sooner than the full development agreement, which will be kind of late summer, early fall. I think we could certainly come back sooner and talk about where we're at with feasibility on the infrastructure side. And I don't want to minimize the infrastructure piece because, as Director Spencer said, that's going to be our biggest challenge is the infrastructure. I think we should, try to regroup or come back to the council with a project update, in the coming months.
Thank you. Councilor Litwin.
Thanks. I actually want to really give you most of the time that I have to say I've appreciated the presentations you've given us both over the summer and now. This is obviously an important part of making a healthy Vermont. Sometimes we hear a lot about a Burlington problem. Everything's a Burlington problem, but actually this project will help our whole state. And so I wanted to offer you, Chapin, you sort of beat me to the punch a little bit to talk to the voters to say, if there's anything you want to add about how the HOME Act intersects with this project and specifically the bonds that the people of Burlington are considering right now, how that impacts this project so that as folks are casting their ballots, which they're doing right now as we speak, they have all the information they can to make informed decisions. And I would ask also if you could just briefly say, in terms of how many units we have to bring online for the HOME Act, roughly ballpark, how far would this get us towards our mandated goal? Montpelier loves to give us mandated goals, so.
I can speak to the HOME Act goal, which I believe is around 5,000 units for Burlington, and development is projected to allow, depending on infrastructure and heights and various other things, about 1,400 homes. So it's a significant number.
And in how many years do we have to hit the 5,000?
I think it's 2050, actually. Yep.
So this gets us very significantly towards that goal. Thank you. And then anything about the wastewater?
Yes, thanks for the question and the opportunity to comment. A key portion of the lake bond, which is the $152 million bond request that will be on the town meeting day ballot for both wastewater and stormwater needs, is largely targeted for upgrading our wastewater plants. That said, we have planned for a variety of other wastewater needs as part of this ask so that we are not coming with dribs and drabs of requests. A key element of the additional work includes a portion of city participation in what very likely will be a new force main pressurized sewer pipe from the south end to main plant that will provide additional capacity for this development as well as other developments in the south end. The constraint is that during wet weather, the transmission mains from the collection system for wastewater is really maxed out because of the combined stormwater and wastewater flows in the south end. So this force main would open up development not only for this project, but for other south end projects as well.
So lastly, and I want to be kept honest with my time, President, but if the people of Burlington were to vote no on the bond, what is the implication for this project?
Yeah, the short answer is that it is an additional impediment for two reasons. One is the capacity of the wastewater collection system in the south end is maxed out during wet weather events, so there would be less money to address that issue. And second, we are approaching permitting requirements for phosphorus and just overall flows at main plant, that if we are truly wanting to grow, we need to upgrade the plant to be able to accept that flow. So the short answer is a no vote would make additional development more difficult.
Thank you. Anybody else? I will just briefly comment. I had discussions with Brian Pine about the permitting, recovering the permitting costs. And I did see your email that my question was, I didn't see that included in the pre-development agreement and expectation that the developer is going to cover the city's costs. And the answer, the response back was that it doesn't preclude the developer from covering the city's costs or the city from requiring that at a future date, and that it could be required in the development agreement. The pre-development agreement is supposed to be setting the stage for what we're working towards in the development agreement. I do agree that this is a very important project for the city. And I also think we have a great partner with a lot of confidence in the partner. And I will just say that I won't be here when you get to a development agreement. But I still want to say on the record that it is my expectation that the developer is going to cover the city's costs in the permitting process. And while I might not be at this table, I might be at that table asking you all when this comes back around again. So hope that will be covered. And if there are there any other comments or questions? Are we ready for a vote? Go to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? That is unanimous, and thank you all for your work on this. Our next item is 6.3, a general updates on improvements and grant agreement and contract authorization to support fencing installation at 1 North Ave. Let's start with a motion. Is there a motion on this? Councilor Carpenter?
The motion, this is enough.
The motion is to authorize the Chief Administrative Officer to execute the grant agreement between the city and the Queen City Police Foundation in the amount of $80,000, no local match required, in support of the fencing installation project at 1 North Avenue, and to authorize the Chief Administrative Officer to take all further actions, including by taking any necessary steps to ensure the creation of the project budget reflecting the acceptance of the grant award, and to execute such further instruments approved as to form by the city attorney as may be necessary or convenient to effectuate the transactions contemplated hereby.
Thank you for doing that, and I would move that.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor McKnight. And Mayor, would you like to speak to this?
Yes, just briefly to cue it up. Thank you very much, Acting President Shannon. Ashley Parker is online with me tonight, and I don't know if there's any members from the facilities team, but I believe it's just Ashley and I tonight speaking to this. I'm just going to queue up and starting first with some deep appreciation, and I know Council President Travers would say the same. He and I met with Ernie Pomerleau several weeks ago now that queued up a piece of the update we'll provide you tonight and for which the action or the motion steps are related to, which is regarding making sure that we have a safe facility at 1 North Avenue, which is our police department building. Real deep appreciation. Mr. Pomerleau is really dedicated to this community. His family is as well. This particular fencing project and installation at the 1 North Avenue building would not be possible without the resources he's been able to bring online and leverage through also partnerships with the Queen City Foundation. So this fence in particular is one obviously related to safety for our staff who work at the facility. And as I understand, BPOA has put this request in for several years, and the city has been unable to, up until this point, to be able to execute on this very important function for the building. And so there's a lot of folks who helped make this, get us to this point. This is to me a great expression of a really strong and strategic public-private partnership. Ashley will also be speaking to some other updates which really reflect the ongoing hard work of our facilities team and our capital team for other parts related to the building. And then in the future, at a meeting coming soon to you in March, we'll speak a little bit more to the new public safety building process for which we've embarked upon. Ashley will likely be back for that, for a repeat performance. But with that, I want to pass it over to Ashley with my appreciation for helping to lead this piece of the puzzle. Ashley?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you all for having me tonight. I apologize for not being able to be there in person. But as the memo before you tonight states, this project is really a response to some serious safety concerns that have occurred at 1 North Ave, especially in that parking lot, the Uniform Services Bureau entrance, with folks coming and going, having been attacked. And so the goal of this project is to really provide them with some safety and security as they come and go to work every day. We've been coordinating very closely, myself, our central facilities team, the Pomerleau Foundation, the police department itself, to really conduct surveys of the property, the neighboring property, making sure that we, what kind of fencing should be installed around this parking lot. A lot of work has gone in a very short amount of time to make this project happen. And we're really grateful that the Queen City Foundation, with support from the Pomerleau Family Foundation, is able to help contribute $80,000 to make this project happen. This project received a permit from our city's Department of Permitting and Inspections back on February 11th. So really, once this grant is authorized, this fencing can be ordered, which will really kick this project off the ground. In addition to this work, I did want to make a note of a lot of really hard work that has been going on at the police department since I started this job in 2022. Kim Bleakley has been working very hard on, and hopefully you've seen this as you've driven past 1 North Ave, but the front pillars are completely gone. And this is part of the front entry renovation project that kicked off. The design work started back in 2022. And the funding was received that year as well. So that is a huge project. It'll give the front of that building a major facelift, hopefully really freshen it up and give the officers working there something to be proud about. We also have a major flooring project underway. I think many of you have seen the flooring inside the building. It really needed to be replaced, really in bad shape. And we have funding now allocated to put in better flooring, nicer flooring, to help, again, improve the inside of that building, improve safety. And in addition, we have some additional allocation that will continue to be put into resolving some of the HVAC issues the building has been experiencing over the last year, in particular focusing on the administrative area in the next few months, but in hopefully FY26 continue to work on additional HVAC needs throughout the building to continue the work that we started last year. In addition, design work is underway for the main, the lobby, the receptionist lobby area, which is a huge need to help bring, a space for somebody to enter or to greet people as they're coming into the building and help direct them to where they need to go. It'll be a really nice space for a receptionist and for the public to come in and feel more engaged with the department. There are no construction cost estimates on that yet, but the design work is ongoing. And additionally, in the FY26 to 27 capital plan, we have about $2 million that we have identified for various needs at 1 North Avenue, including expanding the dispatch area. We know that there are renovations needed internally inside the building for the CARES team. And then we also know that both the women's and the men's locker rooms are in dire need of renovations as well. So all of these projects are high priorities for the department and also for the administration and for the capital plan. So while we don't have secured funding for all of those needs, we are working very hard to secure those. We are going to continue our talks with other funding sources to hopefully find ways to creatively implement as many of these projects as we can so that we can help with the retention and recruitment efforts that are ongoing at the police department. So again, with this agenda item in particular, we're looking to get authorization for this grant agreement, which will help us place this order for fencing that can hopefully be installed in 10 to 12 weeks when it's supposed to arrive in June. So that is the goal of this project. And yeah, I guess that's really it for me. I'll take any questions.
Thank you. Councilors, comments, questions? We'll go to Councilor McKnight, followed by Litwin and Barlow. Go ahead.
Thank you, Acting President Shannon. And thank you to the mayor and team for coordinating this important work in collaboration with Council President Travers and the other parties involved. As the lucky councilor that counts the Pomerleau family as constituents, I really wanted to express my deep gratitude for this donation. I know it will go a really long way towards boosting morale at the police department. The Pomerleau family continues to show up for Burlington in a way that really no one else does. Their philanthropic commitment to our local nonprofits and our city overall is unwavering, widespread, and nonpartisan. They fund organizations like the King Street Center, the YMCA, as well as critical substance abuse treatment efforts, and many more, in addition to the one that is on our agenda tonight. These are all things that some of our most vulnerable residents rely on. And this generosity is even more important in the uncertain federal funding environment that we face. And so also tonight, I need to take some time to stand up for the Pomerleau family. It is extremely disappointing and actually quite bizarre that the Progressive Party recently chose to badmouth this generous family in several recent communications.
Point of order, Council President.
What is your point of order, Councilor Newbeezer?
Point of order would be, sorry, I've got a crying baby, referring to, I don't know, impugning the motives of and talking directly about members of this body, as I was not just allowed to talk about the institution, the hospital as an institution.
He was allowed to talk about them.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Newbeezer.
I don't believe I did not name any specific counselors.
Yes, please don't impugn anybody's intentions. And
well, as a point of order, the Progressive Party is not the subject of any of these deliberations, is not a party to any of this, and it is at best irrelevant and at most a gratuitous political partisan attack, and I would hope that it not be undertaken.
Thank you, Councilor Bergman. Go ahead, Councilor McKnight.
Thank you. So yeah, I found those recent communications to be very disappointing, and also very disappointed that not one leader in the Progressive Party at this table has spoken up to publicly disavow those
Please
mud-singing
keep your
insults.
comments to the,
Thank you.
the matter at hand.
I urge us
You
all-
may talk about the funders, but let's keep it to that. Thank you.
Thank you. I urge us all to recognize the plain truth that this town would be in much worse shape if it were not for the Pomerleaus, and to adjust our rhetoric accordingly. And as elected leaders, I ask that we all conduct ourselves in ways that bring us together and build us all up, rather than trying to drive us apart and tear things down. Thank you again to the Pomerleaus for this generous effort to improve conditions for our police officers. I am very grateful to have the opportunity to vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Litwin.
Thanks a lot. And thank you, Councillor McKnight, for your comments, because they're in alignment with how I was thinking. I'm sorry that we have to do this work that came from a firebombing of the lobby of our police station, and then followed by a frightening cleaver attack on a police officer, unarmed, coming into work early in the morning. So I'm grateful for all the funders, Queen City Foundation included, and I guess I would echo the sentiments that we should be very grateful for the work and the contributions that the Pomerleau Foundation continues to make in this city, and that any attacks from wherever they may come do not help us advance the shared initiatives that we all care about, which include things like the Downtown Health Project, security on Church Street during the holiday seasons, and many of the examples that Councillor McKnight already mentioned. And so any communications that may or may not have gone out by whatever party, I take offense to, and I thank the Pomerleaus.
Thank you, Councillor Litwin. Councillor Barlow.
Just very briefly, I'll pile on and also thank the Queen City Foundation and especially the Pomerleaus for their continued support for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bergman.
Well, as somebody who is a proud member of the Progressive Party and has sat here for every one of those votes and supported every one of those votes that were it involved the Pomerleau family in very positive things, I want to thank the mayor for getting this work done, for being able to advance something that the prior administration and the current police leadership did not get through. This is a good thing that we're going to do, and boy, I tell you, if I were to attack a political for the efforts or actions of people outside of this city and outside of the people at this table, we would be, if you think it's contentious now, then you just wait. I would ask my colleagues across the aisle to not open that floodgate. If we are going to get to a place of consensus around community safety.
Councillor Bergman, please keep your comments.
I am.
My
point is exactly that the type of debate that we have here is really important.
Thank you. You said?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. I think we're checking online. I don't see anybody. I think we are ready for a vote. All those in favor of the general updates and improvements and grant agreement and contract authorization to support fencing installation at 1 North Ave, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? That is unanimous. Thank you very much. Our next item is 6.4, a resolution, the establishment of a Blue Ribbon Commission to address drug-related criminal behavior. Do we have a motion? Councillor Barlow.
Thank you, Acting President Shannon. This resolution,
Yeah, go ahead, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm going to just give a brief introduction, then I'm going to make a motion.
Make the motion first, and then you can have the floor back if you would like.
Okay, excellent. I would move to postpone this item until our March 10th meeting and ask for the floor back after a
Well, if
second.
that's your motion, I don't think that motion is debatable. Is that correct? Motion to postpone to a time certain?
I would withdraw my motion to make some comments.
Let me just check
So,
first.
a motion to postpone an item to a definite time requires a second, and debate is allowed.
I'll
But
second
that
it.
debate would then be on the postponement. So if you want to introduce this,
I would love
you would have to first move it, introduce it, and then you can move to postpone.
I move to adopt the resolution and waive the reading.
And ask for the floor
And
back
ask for
after
the
a
floor
second.
back. Ask for the floor back after a second.
Okay,
second.
seconded by Councilor McKnight.
Okay.
Go ahead, Councilor Barlow.
Thank you. So this resolution operationalizes an idea that came to us from a community letter that received significant community support. And if passed, it would stand up a blue ribbon commission to address drug-related criminal behavior. And it would impanel a number of relevant experts, including some appointed by the mayor and the city council, to consider a complex set of problems we are wrestling with in the community. It's not intended to supplant any of the ongoing efforts by the administration, but would seek to complement that effort. With the good news about the hiring of Interim Chief Sean Burke, I am moving to postpone this item until our March 10th meeting so that the incoming interim chief can have a look at it and weigh in before then.
Is there a second on the motion to postpone? Seconded by Councilor McKnight. Is there discussion on the motion to postpone? And the discussion will be limited to the motion to postpone. Councilor Bergman.
Well, first, I'd like to know whether the maker and seconder would be friendly. It would be friendly to move that date from the 10th to a time after the interim is going to come on board, which is March 24th. And so it seems to be most appropriate if the intent is to allow the interim chief the opportunity to engage, to move it to a time, our meeting after the 24th of March. And I don't know what that date is, but
Is that amendment friendly to the maker?
It is not, and I'll qualify that.
Okay, we can have that discussion
So,
after.
if it's not friendly, so maybe I should just make that motion so that we can have this conversation.
Yes.
A motion
So there
to
is a
amend
motion to postpone to when?
To the meeting, the first meeting after March 24th.
Well, the first meeting is organization.
Well, the
day.
first substantive meeting.
Okay.
The first meeting dealing with council business other than reorganization. How is that?
Okay,
The 14th.
the 14th, you're
The four-
moving to April 14th. Thank you.
April 14th.
There's a motion to amend the motion to postpone to date April 14th. Is there a second?
Just a quick point of information.
Yes.
There is a meeting on, if the 24th is the start date, there is a meeting that night. Just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, well, we can have that part of the debate. Seconded by Councilor Kane. And
And I've
Do you want the floor
explained,
back?
I've explained the reasoning for
do
that.
you want to have the floor, Councilor McKnight? Okay. Councilor Barlow, then Councilor Littman.
And so the reason that I didn't take Councilor Bergman's amendment to be friendly is because we want the incoming interim chief to weigh in on this, but my understanding is we would be able to do that before the 24th.
Okay, thank you. And I saw that the mayor had her hand up, so I'm going to go to the mayor, and then I'll go to you, Councilor Litwin, go ahead.
Thank you, Acting President Shannon. I just want to be clear that Interim Chief Burke is still the chief of South Burlington and will be all the way to March 24th. He's been clear that he really needs to focus on the transition over there and does not have much capacity to take on Burlington work, which I think is completely fair and justified. His literal first day will be March 24th. So I think if you would like his actual assessment among all the other things that Interim Chief Burke will be walking into for Burlington, I would encourage you to consider, I don't have a vote obviously, but the April 14th will have a much more satisfactory assessment by incoming Chief Burke, and I think that's just better process.
Thank you. Councilor Litwin.
Yeah, I actually agree with Councilor Bergman's motion, and I appreciate the mayor's comments. It seems reasonable to me. I don't think that waiting until April 14th will change much, and additionally, if we wait till April 14th, it will allow all new sworn-in members of the council to be part of something that will inform the next 2 years that they serve on the council. So for that reason, I would support Councilor Bergman's amendment.
Thank you. Councilor Newbeeser, you had your hand up and I see it's now gone. Did you want to speak?
Potentially, but I think Councilor Grant's hand is up.
Okay, Councilor Grant.
So, point of information, can I amend the date to push it out further and have the floor?
Let me think for a minute.
We're
may
on our
need some help.
second motion to amend, so.
So we've reached our amendment limit.
Correct.
So that is your answer, Councilor Grant. You may not make a motion to amend at this time. Should this fail, you could propose another motion, but you can't amend this one.
Okay, can I speak on this amendment?
Yes.
Okay. So a few things. The reason I feel that it needs to be given more time is that we once again posted something where we didn't involve all counselors, didn't involve me. I'm the chair of the Public Safety Committee. I read that petition, and there are a lot of very well-meaning, concerned people who signed it, and I do not question their sincerity. But there is a lot of information out there that they are missing. I was very concerned that not even Sarah George was consulted before this was posted. And we've kind of reviewed these things before where we're posting things, making resolutions, and not talking to people who are expected to do follow-up by certain dates. That is not at all being collaborative. It is not at all taking into consideration known information because there was no due diligence done about the known information. I do not think that that is, I can't amend the date, but I just think we'll end up amending it again because I think it is unfair to Chief Burke. Not only do we want him to get acclimated, to start to evaluate what's going on, we want him, who already has, Chief Burke already has an excellent relationship with the state's attorney, Sarah George. A lot of stuff of what we see in the news is probably not going to be tolerated under the leadership of Chief Burke. And I think we need to take that into consideration. And I think we need to allow them to start to work together with regards to Burlington cases, because a lot of what is in
Yes, what is your point of order,
I'm just
Councilor
really not
Litwin?
clear on how this has to do with the amendment on the motion to postpone to 4/14. I feel like we've gotten off track.
not at all. I'm
Your
explaining-
motion.
My motion needs to be ruled on by the president.
That is correct. And the discussion is on the motion to postpone, so your point of order is well taken. So please keep your comments to the motion to postpone.
My comments are to the motion to postpone. I'm giving you reasons why we need to postpone. I'm trying to help you to think of the bigger picture around this that was ignored.
Comments, Councilor Grant.
And I forgot where I was at. How much time did I have before I was interrupted?
You have 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Thank you. So what I was saying is that there are things in this, you haven't talked to, you need to talk to. You have to give Chief Burke time to get acclimated. You have to give Chief Burke time to start to work with Sarah George around cases coming out of Burlington. And moving it just to the 14th is something, but it'll probably ultimately not be enough. Again, I'm concerned about the lack of due diligence. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else on the motion to postpone to the 14th? I can't see that far. Ben, thank you. President Travers.
Yeah, thank you, Acting President Shannon. I just want to speak to these claims that we continue to hear on item in and item out about failure to do due diligence and failure to collaborate. I want to make clear that, I've been...
Point of order, how does this...
Just a minute.
Thank
Yes,
you.
Councilor Bergman.
Again, consistent with other complaints, how does that relate to the motion to amend to 414?
I believe that Councilor Travers is responding to other comments made in this discussion about amending to 414, so I will allow that.
If he could just tie them together, that would be exceedingly helpful.
I see a direct tie. Thank you.
Not yet.
Go ahead, Councilor.
Well, it was only about
President.
5 seconds.
No. Councilor Litwin, that's not appropriate. Councilor Litwin, that's not appropriate. Councilor Travers, go ahead.
I support the motion to postpone, but I am responding to the claims that the reason for postponement is the absence of due diligence and the lack of collaboration thus far. To be clear, I've been speaking to the mayor's office about this item for a number of months. I provided the mayor's office a copy of this resolution 2 weeks ago. I wanted to get the mayor's office response on this item before sharing it with the council more broadly. The mayor's response, understandably, was, as she relayed this evening, which is that she wanted the new interim chief to have an opportunity to weigh in on the item. And that is why the moment that this was posted and put out there, I have let my colleagues here know and have let the mayor know that I am supportive of postponing the item. I will also mention that I have been in touch with the state's attorney's office as well. I have been in touch with a number of the other parties that we may be asking to participate in this process. I've let them know that we were not voting on this resolution this evening and would instead be spending time collaborating with the interim chief to see if this would be a helpful tool moving forward, and that we would be following up with them once we had greater clarity. So the main reason to me to postpone is to provide our new interim chief an opportunity to weigh in here, and I favor Councilor Bergman's amendment to that end.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Carpenter.
Thank you. I just want to support the amendment as well and state that by postponing it, we will give people time to weigh in. Part and parcel of this amendment are some deadlines. First public meeting, when they report back. If we postpone it till the 14th, we will have time to have the discussion about, internal to this resolution, what are reasonable deadlines to accomplish this, and point out that this is a sort of a parallel activity. So I don't see why postponing it to the 14th impedes the intent and will give us time to make sure we have internal deadlines within this resolution that we all can work on.
Thank you. Councilor Newbeezer.
Thank you, Council President. I just wanted to, I also favor Councilor Bergman's amendment. I do think postponing to allow the interim chief to get some input makes a lot of sense. I also am worried generally that if we don't do that, we're going to see interruption of workflow that makes sense. I also, in this discussion around collaboration. I'm a member of the Public Safety Committee. Prior to this being posted, I was not made aware of this, not discussed, not asked for feedback on this resolution. As we just heard, neither was the chair of public safety. I have a great deal of respect for my colleague, but just because something is said to the mayor's office, we are two separate branches of government. I don't know how past mayoral administrations worked, but we are a separate body. I'm an individual elected official who, I generally would like the respect, if I'm serving on a committee, of at least getting an email with the resolution, as I consistently have provided to my colleagues on the other side. I will also say, there's a list of different stakeholders, both city staff and external organizations. This being on the agenda still, when I logged on, I was going to ask, what of this list has actually been consulted? Because there's quite a number. Half dozen to a dozen different organizations and stakeholders. None of that, and folks can show me otherwise, but to my understanding, that due diligence has not happened. And so I think we need to postpone. I'd say we probably need to push this back even further. But if this is, the best we can get, this is the best we can get. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I think we're not going to go to another round. I think we're ready for a vote. All those in favor of the motion? Point of information, yes. What is your point of information, Councilor Grant?
Can I ask a question as to when Councilor Travers reached out to the state's attorney's office?
No, that's further debate. Thank you.
We're going
to go to a vote. All those in favor of the motion to postpone to April 14th, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Seeing none, I'm sorry, was that a no, Councilor Grant?
Correct.
Okay, we need a roll call, thank you.
Counselor Barlow?
Yes.
Counselor Bergman?
Yes.
Counselor Broderick?
Yes.
Counselor Carpenter?
Yes.
Counselor Grant?
No.
Counselor Kane?
Yes.
Counselor Litwin?
Yes.
Counselor McKnight?
Yes.
Counselor Newbeezer?
Yes.
Acting City Council President Shannon?
No.
Counselor Travers?
Yes.
9 ayes, 2 nays.
The motion passes. Thank you. Our next item is 6.5, a fence viewer. So let me go, is there?
Point of I think it's a point of inquiry. Didn't we just vote on the amendment to the motion? We did not actually pass the motion.
You are right. Thank you. There's a motion to postpone. There's a motion to amend to 414. And now we have to vote on the underlying motion, which has now been amended to postpone until 414. So all those in favor, assuming we don't need further discussion on this, all those in favor of the motion to postpone until April 14th, and thank you very much, Councilor Broderick, for catching me on that. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. Is there any opposed? That is unanimous. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I was still muted. No.
Okay, so could you go to a roll call?
Counselor Barlow?
Yes.
Counselor Bergman?
Yes.
Counselor Broderick?
Yes.
Counselor Carpenter?
Yes.
Counselor Grant?
No.
Counselor Kane?
Yes.
Counselor Litwin?
Yes.
Counselor McKnight?
Yes.
Counselor Newbeezer?
Yes.
Acting City Council President Shannon?
Yes.
Counselor Travers,
Yes.
10 ayes, 1 nay.
And the motion passes. Thank you. Next item is a fence. We have 2 appointments for a fence viewer. Do we have a nomination for fence viewer? And I believe both of these terms expire June 30th, 2025. Is there nomination for fence viewer? Counselor Carpenter, is that a hand raised?
Now I lost my train of thought. How many openings?
We have 2 openings and we have 2 applicants.
Point of parliamentary inquiry.
Counselor Litwin?
I think this is the first time I've ever seen a fence viewer application come through in a while. Shay Totten's been doing this work alone for a long time, and I was just curious if a motion can be made to adopt, rather than nominate folks, to just adopt the, to vote through the applicants, if...
No, they must be nominated.
Okay.
Would somebody, yes, Counselor Carpenter.
Well, this is a point of information.
We'll do this one seat at a time. So we will take a nomination for the first seat. They both have the same term. So would somebody like to, I'm sure you do, Counselor Barlow.
I will nominate, and I apologize if I mispronounce the name, Vikas Manjapudi.
There is, did somebody have a Manjapudi? Vikas.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? This is for the first seat. All those in favor of Vikas Manjapudi, please say aye.
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 Are there
Aye.
any abstaining? Are there any opposed? That is unanimous. Congratulations to Vikas Manjapudi. And we will go to the second seat. Is there a nomination for the second seat for fence viewer with a term that expires June 30th, 2025? Counselor Barlow.
Thank you. I would nominate Jamie Seifer.
There is a nomination, Jamie Seifer. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, all those in favor of Jamie Seifer, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any abstentions? There are none. Are there any opposed? That is unanimous, and Jamie Seifer is appointed as fence viewer. Thank you very much. These are positions that have long gone unfilled, and I'm very grateful that both Vikas and Jamie will be serving. We now,
I have
yes.
a point of inquiry. Who oversees the fence viewers? I mean, what's the legal background?
I believe they are the overseers of the fences, but I think Councilor Bergman may have some opinion on this. I could go to Attorney Brown, but I think
Do we have to have them, I guess? is the big
Councilor
question.
Bergman has some history, as I recall.
Well, there is a memo that I wrote, which I don't remember exactly, that's in the city attorney's files somewhere. But they're statutory and part of our charter, and it relates. Their powers relate to division fences, and the idea is to keep the goats and the sheep on the property, and they are sort of independent. officials that would work with the attorney's office if there were issues. And the fact that fence viewers seem to get involved in trying to be mediators of property disputes is something that has evolved in practice, if not in law. But that's the best I could do without crossing lines that I don't want to cross.
Well, I will not make this as a motion, but I will suggest maybe the chair of the charter committee would.
Okay, we're not taking any more motions at this time.
Get rid of them.
You're free to bring that resolution forward at another date. We now will go to item 6.6, which was added to our deliberative agenda from our consent agenda. Who wants to make the motion on waiving the reading and accepting the accountability list, placing it on file? Somebody wants to make that motion?
Well, I wanted to add something to the accountability list.
The motion must be made first before
Okay.
you can add something to the accountability list. Would you like to make the motion, Councillor Litwin?
Sure, thank you. I will make the motion to remove the accountability list and
The motion is simply to
And-
waive the reading, accept the communication, and place it on file.
all right, waive the reading, accept the communication, and place it on file. Thank you.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councillor McKnight. And would you like the floor back, Councillor Litwin?
I would, thank you. I appreciate everyone. And we're maybe ending the meeting at a record time, so I'll try not to spend too much time on this. But it was noticed that on the accountability list, one item was left off, which was the Public Safety Hub resolution that we passed last fall. And so I am moving to sort of get that item on the list, and then for us to discuss here sort of what has happened. So my concern about the Public Safety Hub resolution is that, which we passed 10-2, was that we did provide a report back date to the City Council of January 21st, which has come and gone about 2 months ago. I have brought this up a couple times in the meeting. There was a significant amount of outreach work that needs to happen or needed and
Do you want to make a motion to amend the accountability list?
yes, I'm sorry.
Because right now we're discussing something not on it.
Sure, yes. I'd like to amend the accountability list. Thank you for humoring me. I'd like to amend the accountability list to add the Public Safety Hub resolution.
Is there a second? Seconded by Councillor McKnight. And I think that's actually probably friendly to both of you, so we don't need to go to a vote on that, assuming it's friendly to those.
We're all friendly.
Yeah.
Okay.
So go ahead.
Thank you. Apologies
And
if I wasn't following proper
Speak
procedure.
to that item that has now been amended onto the accountability
Thank you.
list.
And since I have not had to do this yet in my short time on the council, I appreciate you understanding. So essentially, my concern is that in the 4 months that the Public Safety Committee was given to conduct this work, the item was only agendized once on December 19th. Only 13 minutes was spent discussing it.
Point of order, is this about adding something to the accountability list, or is this about?
No, it is not. It is the motion to amend the accountability list was a friendly amendment.
Right.
So the accountability list has now been amended, and Councillor Litwin is discussing an item on the accountability list.
So is that appropriate, since the motion was to waive the reading and place it on file? I mean, it would
I
seem
think
as if
that
you want to have a conversation about what a committee does, that there is an agenda item on it, but this does not seem to be.
Councillor Bergman, I hear your concern. I think that we oftentimes accept a communication and have discussion at great lengths about that communication. So I'm going to continue to allow Councilor Litwin, go ahead.
Thank you, and let me know if I've stepped outside of the lines in any way. And so only 13 minutes has been spent on that. Additionally, when watching the public safety meeting where that took place, I was concerned that several plans were made, which were to create a survey that was to be sent out. Contacting or reaching out to me personally was to happen, and it does not appear that any substantive action has been taken, and we are now. Do you have a point of?
No.
Okay, and we're now 3 meetings past when the passed ordinance and signed resolution language was to report back. There's been no request for an extension of deadline. There was no amendment offered at either in the month leading up to when I shared the resolution for collaborative review, or during the voting process where an amendment could have been made to change the report back dates. And so we're now 6 months down the line, and we haven't really made any progress on assessing what the community does or doesn't need, whether this is possible. And so I remain concerned, I guess, about the Public Safety Committee continuing to do this work, and whether or not we should pull this back as a council or perhaps give them additional time.
Thank you. Councilor Barlow?
Yes, and I appreciate Councilor Litwin's concern. I'll note that Councilor Grant and I discussed agendizing this again and coming up with a plan this week. So that's the intention of the Public Safety Committee at this point, if that's any help.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the accountability list? Councilor Grant?
Am I allowed to give an update on what's been done, or do I just save it for the Public Safety Committee meeting?
You can, yes, you can do that now as it's, and you
So-
also can do it in committee reports.
Thank you. So we had a problem where we were given dates that quite frankly weren't really thought out. And at the time of the original conversation, it was mentioned that the priority was still granting access to the public to 1 North Avenue. We had an update tonight from the mayor. So we know the construction's going on, but it's not finished. I have been talking to people. I have sent out some second requests. There isn't a strong, I'll talk about it in more detail on Thursday, but there's other concerns downtown. And because this is not something that can have an officer posted, it's not being well received. So I will continue to reach out to people, and I will discuss what on Thursday night, what I have received, and then I will maybe we can put it on the agenda next meeting.
Are you all set? Councilor Grant?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Councilor Litwin,
Did I have any time left?
your time is almost up, and do we really need a second round on this? I don't think so, right?
Well, I guess I would just say I'm not left understanding that there was any public process in the Public Safety Committee other than what sounds like the chair having private conversations outside of committee.
I think that this can probably be resolved between you and Councilor Grant outside. I don't think we need to continue to debate that at this point in order to accept the accountability list, right?
Sure.
Okay, so we can go to a vote on accepting the communication and placing it on file. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? That is unanimous. Thank you. Next item is committee reports. Is there any member of a committee that would like, or chair of a committee that would like to report on their committee? Councilor Barlow.
The Transportation, Energy, and Utilities Committee will be meeting on Monday, February 24th at 7 p.m. It's a non-standard date and time for those interested in attending. As Director Spencer said earlier, we're still setting up the agenda, but we will have more information on that in a day or two. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Bergman?
As a point of information, we are not meeting on the 20th, is that correct?
It's the 24th, it's a Monday.
It's a Monday, so we've
We had to
changed,
do
we
that.
had to
We
change
had to
it.
do that.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you. Any other committee chairs want to give us a committee report? Councilor Grant.
Thank you. Tonight would have normally been the meeting for the REIB committee meeting, but we had to postpone it due to this meeting and we couldn't make it tomorrow. So it is going to be next Tuesday, the 28th. So the Racial Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging meeting will be Tuesday, the 28th. I just also wanted to mention the Black Experience is happening this Saturday. There are going to be at Winooski High School a catered lunch from 12 to 1 and then 1 to 4 multiple activities. Fletcher Free Library from 12 to 5 will have screenings of Black films. Contoys Auditorium from 4 to 6:30 will have a catered pizza dinner. The main event at the Flynn Theater will feature the author Ta-Nehisi Coates. This is a really great opportunity to have someone of his caliber come to Burlington. So I hope people spread the word. And I just want to say that a DJ that you may like might be spinning.
Thank you, Councilor Grant. If there are no other committee reports, I will give my committee report as chair of the Ordinance Committee. We have an Ordinance Committee meeting on Thursday at 1 p.m. And note to committee members, it is at DPW on Pine Street. It is not in the Busher Conference Room as it usually is. And we will be discussing the vacant buildings ordinance, hoping to get that back to the council after this meeting, as well as the Champlain College bed cap and the performing arts centers in the enterprise zone. Anything else? Seeing none, we will close that item. We have a City Council President update, which I do not feel I am entitled to. I don't know if President Travers is on or wants to give a report. If not, we have nothing else on our agenda, and without objection, I will adjourn our meeting. Thank you.